I cannot be more excited to have on this show right now, calling in. I love this man's work. What he does on Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad has just been amazing. He is Jonathan Banks, the man who plays Mike Ehrmantraut, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, sir?
How are you, sir? I'm good. Thank you very much.
Better for talking to you. That's how I am doing. Who are you channeling from Mike Ehrmantraut, Jonathan? Who are you channeling for this character?
Well, before we get into that,
Okay.
I mean, you're talking about, if I may.
Please.
If I may.
Please.
You're talking about all these motor geniuses, all these great athletes.
Yes.
You know, and you go through it all the time. Now, I've been watching the local news, and these kids that have not had a chance to graduate, they're highlighting the soccer teams and the
Yes.
field hockey teams, and wonderful kids and talented kids. Now, I would really like to see them. I want them to spotlight and bring on all the guys that were seniors that were still playing on the junior varsity. I'd like to see some of the kids that are having to sling hamburgers just to get through school. I'd like to highlight some of these people.
Okay.
You know, that's my pet peeve for the day.
And that your pet peeve for the day is that people who are not getting the spotlight, but the shaft in what's going on in the world should get the spotlight.
Well, you know, I mean, just the guys, even if they're not getting the shaft, the women and the men that are in the trenches just slugging along, and it starts in high school. It starts before high school. Yeah. Anyway, how do I channel Mike Ehrmantraut?
No, it's okay. Hold on a second. Hold on. So before we turn there, then. So did you play sports in high school? Did you try at some point to get into sports or in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, I mean, I play. That's how I. Yes, I played a lot of sports very poorly.
Okay.
I could sit on a bench in baseball, and I had a coach that when I said I wanted to try out for the junior class play.
Yes.
He said, you know, and all I was doing was sitting on a bench. I mean, and he said to me, Banks, he said, you know, all actors are. And
come on.
I thought, well, yes, no, I tell you. So, and at my 40th reunion, they have you fill out a thing about who inspired you.
Yes.
And so I put down, I said, you know, I'll never forget Coach Sisson's words. And I really do hope the miserable was still alive to read it, you know?
So when I ask who are you channeling Mike Ehrmantraut, are you channeling yourself at any point, Jonathan?
Well, you know, I mean, no, because that would make it, you know, that would make it too grandiose. Most of the fights I've ever been in my life, I've gotten kicked out.
Okay. Jonathan, we're on live television and radio right now.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. And so the poop kicked out of me. Thank you very much.
Okay.
No, you know, I mean, Mike, we all want to be Mike Ehrmantraut. He gets things done. He survives. I don't know. Yeah. Who do I channel? I don't know who I channel. You stay alive long enough, I guess you see a lot of things. And I do have friends that had to do things that I didn't do. You know, we're part of that Vietnam generation that was a lot of guys were fodder, and some very close friends of mine who are still friends to this day. They went, and they carried my. I'm going to bleep it out. I'm sorry, because it's just the way I feel.
No, I know.
You know, whether I agree with that war or I don't, my friends had to carry my. And you know, I went off to university, and some of those guys who are my dear friends, I still, there's a part of them that's in Mike Ehrmantraut.
Jonathan Banks here on the Rich Eisen Show, live on NBCSN, Sirius XM, and YouTube.com/Rich Eisen Show. So we had Giancarlo Esposito on the show a couple of times, and he said there were some scenes when he would read it on the page, he knew it would be intense for him to actually act out. And then when he did act out, he needed some time after it's all over. Have you had similar scenes like that, either in Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, Jonathan?
Well, I don't mean to be a smart aleck, but it's I let go of things pretty quick. At least I think I do.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way, there's one scene where I talk about causing the death of my son. That you just don't tap into that and then just walk away from it.
Right.
But yeah, no. And Giancarlo, let me tell you, Giancarlo is the antithesis of Gus. Giancarlo is so full of life and ebullient and exuberant and having a good time. He's the best.
He is. I love having him on the show, and he and I talk about love of the Yankees together because he's from there. Do you have a favorite baseball team, football team, Jonathan?
Dude, I grew up in Washington, D.C. No, what are you kidding me? My team were the Senators. And a real heartbreaker when there were 8 teams in the American, 8 teams in the National, right?
Yep.
The Senators were perennial cellar dwellers. So they finish in second place around, what was it, 1960, 61, something like that.
Yes.
And Calvin Griffith sells them to Minnesota. I was a kid. My heart was just broken. And it was 2 years later they win the pennant with Camilo Pascual at shortstop, Zorro Versalles, the premier pitcher, Earl Batty behind the plate. It was the same team. So, yeah, when I was glad in last year, the miracle, miracle.
No doubt.
That they win the World Series. They'll always be the Senators to me, no matter what they call them.
Right. The Nationals, Expos, or whatever. So you were invested in that, watching that last year, the Nationals?
How could you not be?
It was amazing.
How could you not be?
So who's your player? Who's your player growing up then, Jonathan? I mean, who's your favorite athlete? I guess of all time.
I saw Harmon Killebrew play his rookie game at the old D.C. Stadium, at Griffith Stadium, and I just kind of followed Harmon Killebrew throughout it. I got to tell you though, Brooks Robinson. I've played golf with him before, and every time I see him, I just I want to throw a ball on the ground and watch him scoop it up, no matter how old he is.
And you want to talk about great human beings too. That guy is a human being of all human beings. That guy. I love Brooks Robinson. Yeah. He's a good guy, man. I mean, and just one of the all-time best. I've got Jonathan Banks here on the Rich Eisen Show. So I just want to go a little bit down your filmography. What was it like on the set of Airplane back in 1980, Jonathan?
Well, for me, I mean, Bobby Hayes is one of my dear friends, but we didn't become friends on that film. It was in 1988 when I met my wife in Spain, and we were doing a film in Spain. But what was it like on that set? I went in to do a job, and I just kind of showed up, and I participated in the silliness and walked away. But, that's the old Kentucky Fried Theater that was over on Pico Boulevard.
Oh, yeah?
Where those guys came from, yeah. The Zuckers and Jim, yeah. And
Lloyd Bridges was in some of the scenes with you, right?
Yeah, and Robert Stack. I got to tell you, those guys. It was so much fun to see them, and they were having a good time. They were cutting up, and they were having a good time. And, Robert Stack had a droll sense of humor anyway, but it was fun. I was young. It was fun to be around.
I know. I see some of the photographs from it, and obviously the movie is one of my all-time favorites. And then a couple of years later, you were involved in 2 films with Eddie Murphy, 48 Hours and Nick Nolte. That was a quick cup of coffee for your character, spoiler alert. And then Beverly Hills Cop, where you were the individual who, I guess, technically wrecked the buffet at the Harrow Club, correct, Jonathan?
I did, but I shot his friend in the head, Jimmy Russo, and Mikey, and Jimmy's a great guy, and Jimmy and I are friends. it was one of those things too where Jimmy wanted to get into it. I'm slapping him in the hall, and I'm going, "No, Jimmy, we can't." He said, "No, slap me. I want to get it." Jesus, it's acting, Jimmy. Stop it.
I know. So did you actually do your own stunt to go through the table at the Harrow Club, Jonathan?
Louis Elias was my stunt guy for years, and Louis passed away now. But I do the first lift, and I wasn't doing it clean enough.
Okay.
And so Louis comes in, and it's a very smooth cut that you go through there. But no, the one that they used is Louis going across the table.
Okay. Got to check on that.
But I'll tell you what,
yes.
Louis was a player just on Sports Talk. And Louis was, I think, an All-American at UCLA in 1953 or 54. And then played in Canada after that. I think I'm right about that.
Man, oh man. Jonathan Banks here on the Rich Eisen Show, Better Call Saul. So the final season, do you have any idea when you might get back to work at all right now on that, Jonathan? Is there a script anywhere that you...
No, I haven't called anybody either, because it's one of those things where, I imagine these lawyers in these studios are trying to figure out how we get them back in and how we do it. And I would think that for them, I'm the liability, because I'm 73 years old. Now, I'm in relatively decent shape, but
yes.
At the same time, if the statistics are correct, it might be rolling the dice to send me back in there.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're great at it, Jonathan, and I just hope you stay safe, stay at home, and I love what you're doing in this show. And I know we met briefly at charity golf tournament here in Los Angeles for the American Red Cross. It was good to see you then, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, sir.
Right back at you.
Pleasure.
Right back at you. That's Jonathan Banks right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.